welcome to episode 39 of The Checklist, brought to you by Secure Mac. I'm Ken Ray.
I'm Nicholas Raba.
And I'm Nicholas Tacek.
It's career day on The Checklist. Ever wonder how to be a doctor? Go to medical school. Ever wonder how to be a writer? So do I. Ever wonder how to be a computer security expert? Yeah, guess which one we're talking about today. We're not even halfway through the year, yet we've already done 3 shows dedicated to multiple security threats that have hit in 2017. As we throw more complex computers into TVs, watches, teddy bears, the need for computer security expertise is not going away anytime soon, if ever. On this edition of The Checklist, we're looking at ways that anyone with a drive for it can pick up some computer security skills, maybe even become a computer security professional. 5 ways we'll look at today: teaching yourself with books and the internet, heading to or back to school, heading to a conference or two. We'll talk about special training seminars, and finally, network, collaborate, and practice. So, we all know that there are books out there for everything. We all know that there's stuff that we can look up. Talk to me, though, about teaching yourself with books and internet when it comes to computer security.
Well, a common trait among many in the security sector is a passion for learning. That motivation is evident in the amount of time people spend through individual learning. So we'll talk about the value of formal education in a moment, but for now we'll focus on methods for self-teaching. The good news, there's no shortage of ways to learn. If you're a visual learner who likes to follow along with an instructor, you'll find plenty of individuals offering video tutorials on the web. If you prefer to hold a book in your hands, many publishers have extensive lines of high-quality textbooks. The best approach will take advantage of all the available resources, but where you start is totally up to you. Try beginning with the basics. If you have no background in this area, you'll want to spend some time considering what area of security you want to dive into. Typically, you'll spend a lot of time learning the ins and outs of computer security, digital systems, and the foundation for it all, programming. Understanding at least one, if not multiple programming languages is kind of essential in this field, even if you specialize in networking or database security. But how can you get your hands dirty looking for vulnerabilities or designing your own secure systems if you don't understand the methods and the languages used by hackers, used by the computer systems? A good beginner's language these days is Python. In fact, we've seen Mac malware that uses Python scripting. Even just understanding and knowing AppleScript will set you on your path. Over time, you'll want to graduate to more complex languages. Knowing about these computer languages can push you towards your goals. One publisher we'd encourage our listeners to look at is No Starch Press. You could find them at nostarch.com. They have an immensely vast array of text for beginners and advanced users alike. In fact, if you visit the site, you'll see a whole category of books devoted to Python, including everything from a Python for Kids book to black hat hacking techniques for Python. The No Starch catalog includes plenty of other programming books, as well as titles directly related to hacking and computer security itself. Immerse yourself in these texts and think critically about what they tell you. Well, while we're speaking about publishers, Syngrus is another one to know. They have plenty of books with a specific focus on security, as well as tailored learning paths to help you find your way in particular specializations. When you want to dig deeper into security topics, this is a good way to go. New books come out frequently with updated information and expanded topics. Something like the Handbook of System Safety and Security would provide solid information. And don't worry if you can't understand everything right away, or even if you're confused. That just gives you the opportunity to experiment and ask around for help. Now, we'd also be remiss if we didn't mention 2600 Magazine. It bills itself as the Hacker Quarterly. It was founded all the way back in 1984, and it has a real pedigree when it comes to hacking. This is one of the magazines when I was growing up that everybody would get their hands on. They'd have all the different meetings, all the different issues at hand in the hacking community, and it would talk about some of the security topics that weren't notably talked about as we see in today's internet age. Now that we've talked about print media, let's not forget about the internet. There's something for every skill level here too, with the benefit that much of it is completely free. If you like to listen to others to help you learn, check out video tutorials on YouTube or keep on listening to our podcast. On YouTube, there's videos from everything from Python to Java to Swift. I mean, anything you can imagine. It's almost like attending a lecture, with the key difference: if you don't like the teaching style, you could move on to another video that's more your speed and skill level. How-to websites are also an option. When you're learning and you don't understand something, there's a simple option: ask Google. You can look up sample code to see what you're trying to do, or explore analysis of older vulnerabilities posted by other security researchers. If you want to give yourself a challenge, look through publicly available code to find flaws or errors. Googlers recently undertook a project where they analyzed open source projects and uncovered more than 1,000 previously unknown flaws. Google said 25% of those could have been used to exploit system security. So take a critical eye towards free examples too. Now, if you have questions, web forums are still a popular place to chat and gather for hackers and security experts alike. When you run into an issue you can't resolve, ask someone more experienced. There are options far beyond traditional forums today too. Sites like Reddit have thriving programming, hacking, and digital security communities. It's only to your benefit to join these communities and become part of the conversation.
So that first part, we're talking about learning basically on your own. You get a book, you get a magazine like 2600, you go online and look for information yourself. There's a little bit about the community there at the end of what you just said, but the next step that we're talking about is actually getting much more, well, it's getting out there. Talk to me about like different courses that you might take, like actual, going to school courses.
Yeah, learning on your own is a good start, but you might want something more structured. If you hope to make a career out of it, then you might want to involve some formal education and certification. Tens of thousands of new people enter into college comp sci programs every year. The ability to learn about programming and all of its related concerns is available even to middle and high schoolers today. In other words, if you want to learn from someone with real experience, you have tons of options. Now, you might already be worrying about tuition when you hear about class-based learning, but don't be too concerned. You don't need to pursue a complete 4-year degree or postgraduate work to understand security. That path isn't right for everyone, but other education pathways might be. For those listening because you hope to encourage a child to pursue their passions in this area, we'd recommend you to encourage them to look for these opportunities early. Taking classes in middle and high school does more than provide them with a bedrock of understanding from which to expand. It also exposes them to the ideas of their peers and the challenges of the instructor. Starting early helps create a foundation of thought, learning to ask questions, think differently about problems, which becomes essential down the road. The more effort they place into learning and developing their skills now, the better off they'll be later. If higher education is your goal, now is a good time to get in the game. Lots of universities not only offer computer science, but more granular topics as well. Networking, systems administration, cryptography, and security, you'll find some schools have them all. The professors leading these courses often have a wealth of experience to share with their students. In some places, you may be able to audit a course without enrolling in a degree program. There are many options that local and national colleges provide you these days. Trade schools and community colleges offer less long-term and fully committed opportunities to learn with structure. Your education can benefit from these just as much as a traditional university, and they can be much less expensive. Sometimes these courses are a good starting point for those who don't want to try learning on their own. Even here, you gain the benefit of the ability to ask questions and receive feedback on your work. If you go down this road, be an inquisitive student. Security principles aren't something learned by simple memorization. It's all about seeing the big picture while also understanding how to probe the finer details of software, systems, and networks. Another advantage of these institutions, many of them offer certification programs that don't require the completion of years of study. Instead, they need completion of specialized courses. You can likely find a short course program geared specifically towards cybersecurity. Accumulating certifications does more than bolster your own credentials. Besides expanding your knowledge, it allows you to challenge yourself. Good security is hard, and developing those practices isn't as easy as it might seem. It requires that we think just like a malicious hacker might, but how do you put yourself in their shoes? Learning how to attack and defend systems through these educational opportunities can give you insight that will be valuable as you go deeper into a security career. You'll need to take the time to not only learn how things work, but to think about what that really means and where any weak points might exist. We can't protect against threat vectors we don't notice, but you can bet there's a hacker out there who will. Of course, nothing says you must commit to a formal education so deeply. Even if you don't want to certify yourself or pursue a degree, you just want to learn more to protect your Mac, you'll still derive a lot of value from taking a few classes. The longer format provides time to develop and practice your new skills. When you need to learn a new complex topic, classroom learning is often efficient and effective. And if you found that classroom learning isn't your thing, you don't need to worry, because computer security, computer programming in general, is a field where a lot of companies don't care so much about the degree as they do about the knowledge you have. So if you've learned the information kind of on your own or through a non-traditional method, not necessarily a 4-year degree, it's not going to stop you from entering this as a career if you have the knowledge and skills to show for it.
So something that would be, I guess, much more intense, shorter, but much more intense would be actually attending like a security conference or something like that. Talk to me about the benefits of those.
Yeah, as you develop skills and knowledge, you'll naturally start to consume more information from within the industry. Besides reading the news, you need to keep up with the newest innovations and the ways people are pushing the field forward. In fact, you've already started doing this by listening to our podcast. So at this stage, why not think about dipping your toes into the actual security scene? If you've used forums to help develop your skills, you might have a head start here. And reading periodicals like 2600 can provide opportunities to make inroads. Generally speaking, there's no better way to dive in and immerse yourself than by attending a trade show. Some call themselves hacker conventions, while others take a more business-like approach to hosting a more formalized show. Both are an excellent way to learn about groundbreaking developments in security and hacking, meet people in the industry, and you could have plenty of fun at these events, even when their actual purpose is serious discussion. The biggest and perhaps the most famous hacker convention is the annual DEF CON. Running since 1993, it was originally just a gathering of friends from a bulletin board system. Today, it's the most attended hacker gathering around the world and commands a huge audience every year in Las Vegas. DEF CON is where individuals and teams unveil cutting-edge exploits and new research. As meetings of the minds go, this is a big one. Attending a show like this can be a big step in your journey. There's plenty to do. Attend a talk, walk the floor, or join many of the legal hacking activities. Be aware, though, it is a hacker conference after all. if you bring a laptop or phone, be extra cautious about how you use it. Anything could be a target in an environment like this. One group even maintains a display streaming information captured over the unsecure Wi-Fi network to demonstrate the need of proper precautions. But common sense precautions will help keep you safe. There are many amazing opportunities at a convention like this. One thing is true, hackers love to show off what they know. So, at something like DEF CON, you'll find so many people who want to teach you something new. Well, what if you want something a little less intense, but with all the benefits of demonstrations and lectures? Well, there are many, many other conventions and gatherings besides DEF CON. Other popular venues include TourCon, which takes place in San Diego, and ShmooCon in Washington, D.C. TourCon is more of a formal gathering for computer security experts. Here you'll find informational seminars and even training where you could go hands-on with techniques new to you. We'll get to these training sessions here soon, but you'll find them at most big trade shows. ShmooCon, as its fun name might indicate, also throws plenty of games and competitions during the weekend of the conference. Now, 2600 Magazine, that we talked about earlier, hosts Hackers on Planet Earth Conference, or it's known as HOPE. It's held in New York City. It typically happens every 2 years. HOPE is perhaps best known for featuring an exciting array of guest speakers in addition to the usual 24-hour buzz of convention activity. This event is quite expansive and covers a lot of topics, so it's an ideal choice for those who want to check out more than one conference space. On the whole, these events and many others offer novices and professionals the same valuable experience. If you attend one of these events, you'll have the opportunity to listen and learn from some of the best during the talks they'll give. With that said, it is the people who are the most important, not the shiny gadgets or new exploits. Don't be shy. Chat with strangers and make some new friends. Show your desire to learn and you'll find yourself pulled into some wonderful conversations with truly fascinating people. Networking with people at conventions and conferences, it provides you with more opportunities even further down the road. When you have questions, you could reach out to these people. You could ask them for advice or show them your research, get a second opinion.
So we've talked about something fairly formal, like going to school. We've talked about something fairly informal, like going to a conference. There's something sort of in between, training seminars or things like that to gain skills. Talk to me about Mr. In Between.
Well, attending trade shows and having a blast is excellent, but let's not forget that we're here to improve and get better as well as party it up a bit. With that in mind, organized learning doesn't always take place in the college classroom or in front of your computer. As we just discussed, many security conferences host training seminars during the event. Others may run different workshops throughout the entire year. There are also training opportunities that occur independently of major conferences and conventions. No matter which type you choose, these are also a valuable tool for any student of security. While they do often have a cost associated with them, saving up to participate in some seminars is a worthwhile endeavor, and a lot of them actually have scholarship programs available for younger learners who might still be in high school or college. So that might be worth looking into a little further. Let's explore why these seminars can be so beneficial and how you can take advantage of what they offer. The way that these seminars work is pretty simple, especially when it's at a conference. You pay for entrance to the course or simply an additional amount on top of the conference fee. Most often, these fees also include the course materials you'll need to use throughout the training seminar. The big advantage to learning from a seminar is it's a smaller format. Conferences are large, loud, and can really feel a bit chaotic. In the relative peace of the seminar room, there's maybe only 20 or 30 people, and you can drill down and focus on learning new things. Seminar topics can be very broad or very specific depending on who is offering the course. One excellent example of cybersecurity training, which is available to everyone, is the SANS Institute. SANS offers hundreds of training seminars around the US and the world every year, in addition to several large SANS conferences themselves. You could actually even use this as your jumping off point. SANS has a Security Essentials course designed to bring people up to speed quickly. The flexibility and wide-reaching subject availability of SANS means it's a reliable option for many pros as well. These aren't just classes in theory. They are intensive and in-depth, with the goal of equipping students with real, practical skills. Since these seminars usually run for about 3 days, it's easy to fit them into an otherwise busy life as well. SANS offers a variety of certifications, so if you don't feel like enrolling in a community college to seek out a certificate, seminars might actually be the way to go for you. Training at actual conferences offers many similar benefits. Consider the Layer 1 Security Conference in Los Angeles. In addition to the weekend of speakers and events, they host training as well. This year, one of the options is called Hands-On Hacking, and it's a chance to learn from an actual industry penetration tester. That's someone who tries to break into private networks to aid a company in developing more robust security solutions. The course includes time spent engaging in a capture the flag environment. Here, you'll have to use the accumulated skills and new knowledge from the course to navigate a digital landscape, compromising systems, and then resecuring them as you go. The goal, of course, is to reach a flag hidden behind layers of security. Now, not all training events take quite such an unusual tack to the subject matter, but that just means you have plenty of variety from which to choose. With courses to match just about every skill, it's as good an option for getting started as it is for moving into deeper and more complex subject material. You'll continue to meet interesting people, too, and that means more opportunities to pick up helpful tricks and broaden your horizons. Explore the training available in your local area. It's too good a learning opportunity to pass up if you can afford the fees.
So, with the exception of the one at the very beginning, which of course was read a book on your own, read a magazine on your own, or go online on your own, everything we're talking about here involves other people. And of course, that leads us to the last step, and what could honestly end up being, outside of computer security, I know half of what I've been able to do and everything that I might be able to call a career has had to do with talking to other people, because then they know about something else, or maybe they got a job for you or something like that. The last step in everything that we're talking about today: network, collaborate, and then, of course, practice.
It's important that you don't allow your education to stagnate as you pursue this passion. The digital world, it moves fast, and malware offers seem to move faster than anyone else. Learning the best practices and assessing how to meet challenges head-on doesn't always happen in the classroom or while you're at a conference. At times, you'll gain the most benefit by putting your knowledge to use. Whether that means educating others about what you've learned or beginning a security-related project, that's up to you. All this learning isn't useful if you don't do anything with it, though. Once you've built a solid base of understanding and you've immersed yourself in other aspects of networking and computer security, go another step forward. Make things and break things. Just not the law. Learning what you're capable of requires trial and error. While you won't be breaching a bank's security, you can develop practical understandings of how malware authors work to defeat our defenses. Even simply securing your home network, then probing it for new issues, testing the security that you've built is extremely useful here. You don't have to do this alone either. Collaboration and sharing of information freely is a cornerstone with the modern hacking and security communities. There are ways to meet up with fellow enthusiasts to discuss, learn, and work outside of large, major social events. There's smaller meetups that happen all the time. One good example, Once again, link back to 2600 magazine, known as 2600 meetings. They're semi-informal gatherings of hackers around the world. They usually occur in the early evening on the first Friday of every month. Your local group will probably have its own agenda for the meeting, or there might not be an agenda at all. It can just be an opportunity to stand around, relax, and talk shop after a long week. Others might work on developing software or try out a new idea to see if a particular hack might work. It's an opportunity to gather and talk, and that alone is a super valuable experience. DEF CON Group follows a similar concept, and it's easy to discover online whether a local group has a meeting near you. Joining one of these groups or starting up a discussion meeting on your own exposes you to new viewpoints and possibilities. It provides an opportunity to begin collaborative projects that could lead to something bigger. Even if it's just a new technique you didn't know before, it's your opportunity to take everything you've learned throughout your efforts and put it to the test. What better way than in a group of your peers?
All right, I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions before we hit the end. All of these things that we just laid out, which I'm going to ask each one of you, Mr. Raba and Mr. Tacek, which one is the one that most benefits you personally? Understanding that learning styles are going to be different for everyone else. Which is the one, I guess we'll start with you, Mr. Tacek, which is the one that you find yourself doing most often?
Mine's kind of a hybrid one, if I could. I'd say teach yourself with books and internet research, kind of the first one we covered, mixed in with the network and collaborate. I follow a large number of security researchers on social media, and the discussions that kind of take place there on a daily basis leads to research and learning new things, and for me has been the starting point of a large number of my security endeavors. And I'd say that kind of a combination of the community and knowledge sharing and learning is where it's at for me.
That's really interesting because that's not even something we covered. I mean, we did say online stuff, but you just brought up something we didn't even mention in the show. When you say social media, I assume you're talking Facebook, Twitter. I mean, is there something else there that we're missing?
No. And I was thinking about bringing it up, actually, was that when we talk about collaborating with people and meeting up, those meetups don't even necessarily have to be in the real world. A lot of security researchers are found all over the country, all over the world. And while you can meet up at conventions or similar gatherings, there's nothing wrong with following those people on Twitter. And actually, once you follow enough of the security people, Twitter's recommendation system is really good with recommending other security professionals, at least in my experience. So I found that kind of a community, the social media there, that kind of community has been really beneficial for me, not only staying on top of emerging security news or new threats, but learning, helping spread knowledge. I guess I don't use a whole lot of social media normally, but Twitter is one where I'm on it every day with regards to following up on new security news.
Yeah, Twitter's an interesting one too, because there are a couple of ways. Twitter's recommendation may be good, but then also you can also just see, oh, that person's interesting, I wonder who they're following, because you can check who they're following, and then if some of those are interesting, or also just watching the conversations. If there's somebody that you really like and you're seeing them interact a lot with somebody else, and I'm talking about, that's just something I do, not from a security side, but that's just the way Twitter works. You basically get to eavesdrop on conversations because they're having them publicly, and then if you like what somebody's saying, then you can start listening to all the other conversations or just the other stuff that they're spouting off too. What about you, Mr. Raba?
Oh, one of my favorites is conventions. I have attended DEF CON for almost 20 years now, and the amount of people that I have met over the years and built in my own network to be able to ask questions, to follow on social media like Nick talked about. I mean, Twitter is one of those places where even though it limits you to a small amount of characters, it's a very fresh discussion. Whereas doing a blog post or writing up a security advisory, those things, it takes a lot of time. But there's something about social media that you get those quick tidbits of knowing where people are at with the research that they're doing. With the recent ransomware that came out, I mean, there was a lot of activities going on between the researchers on Twitter where you could see what was going on.
A huge amount of the collaboration on analyzing and taking down WannaCrypt was actually took place on Twitter. It's really kind of cool, actually, because you can see that collaboration happening live, depending on who you follow or what conversations you're following.
Yeah, I love books. I mean, there's so many great books out there, and even the books, you'll see the authors of them. Some of them will release free updates to the book. So if things have changed, if you purchased a book, you could download updated chapters. It's good reading materials, especially if you're on flights or you have good downtime. But the one thing I could recommend for people who have their regular jobs, who have the ability to take those extra classes, is to actually take advantage of it. Many industries will give you the opportunity to learn new things. They'll say, hey, you could go out to these conferences, or hey, you could take these classes at school. We'll pay for them. A lot of people don't do that. Take the time to do it. Learn something new, and it just broadens your horizon. It makes you think a little bit more about different things, and you feel more fresh, less stagnant.
As always, we've covered a lot of information on today's show, but as always, we do have notes for the show as well. So if there's anything that you missed or anything you want to double back and check again, securemac.com/checklist is the website to find the notes for this show, all the past shows, and all the shows coming up, once they actually happen. securemac.com/checklist. If you have a question for us, if you have a topic you'd like to hear us hit, we do have an email address. It is checklist@securemac.com. That address again is checklist@securemac.com. And if you can't remember that, please do remember this. You're listening to The Checklist, brought to you by Secure Mac. And we'll talk to you next week.